Dragon Ball Super Fusion World releases with 4 starter decks. So the question is, which one should you buy? Hey everybody, Espira, and we're back with another Dragon Ball Super Card Game Fusion World video. This time touching upon the starter decks. All the reveals are done. So now the only question is, which one should you pick up if you are looking to get a specific deck? Now, the release of the game is coming out with 4 different starter decks. We've got Goku, Vegeta, Broly, and Frieza. Now, naturally, the thematics are going to be what ties in a lot of people if that's what you're looking forward to. In terms of if you like Goku or Vegeta, naturally just pick up those decks. I know a ton of people who are looking to just pick up Broly because they love Broly. In terms of what you're looking towards thematically, Goku is a U7 Goku deck, so it's Tournament of Power Arc stuff. Vegeta is the God movie, so a lot of things based off of Beerus and the boats and stuff like that. Broly's theme is a bit of a mix. It's a mix of villains, like Saiyan villains, and then some stuff from the originally Broly movie, so you're looking at that. And then Frieza is just Frieza's army across a bunch of different eras. And the exciting thing, of course, too, is you do get a code if you pick up one of these. Now, we still don't know how these codes are going to work, but probably something in the ballpark of, hey, if you pick up the red starter deck, you're able to get that in the client, hopefully. So either way, kind of leading into the discussion of how do I pick these, just letting you know all the information ahead of time. But if we actually look into the deck, I did do a full breakdown of what the decks get. Mind you, some of these numbers might be off. I might be off by 1 common or uncommon. Maybe there are 2 of as opposed to 4 of, but this is pretty close to what the demo decks were showing us that we're going to get when you put 2 together. So hopefully it kind of lines up on that front. Just know, might be a little bit off on that point. So in terms of what Goku is doing, red is all about BP reduction and BP boosting. So in that front, you're using a lot of cards that are able to get you and make you stronger or make your opponent's stuff weaker so that they're easier to hit into. When we're looking at the leader card, you have Son Goku when attacking, draw 1 card. And then when you're at 4 life or less, you get to draw a card and then awaken. On the awaken side, you are a 20k when attacking, draw a card. But now you have the activate battle once per turn. Choose up to 1 of your battle cards and it gets 5k power for the battle. Introductory set 1 is going to be a huge board focus. So Goku is really good at making combat math annoying for your opponent, meaning that he's going to have to use cards if he wants to beat over a 20k versus a 20k or something like that. And you get so much value over the course of an entire game just being able to do this every single turn. You can use it proactively on your turn to deal more damage, and you can use it defensively to protect your cards on board. So in that sense, Goku is really, really solid as a pick. Moving past, we've got the SRs, and these are like the bomb cards of the deck. We've got Son Goku, a 5-drop 35k. Do note, every boss monster so far has had 0 combo power, so there is a little bit of a risk reward aspect there where if they're stuck in your hand, they can't help you defend yourself. This one's got double strike, which means it'll deal 2 damage if it hits, and then on play, choose up to 1 of your opponent's battle cards and it gets minus 20k power for the turn. In Dragon Ball, when a card hits 0 power, it does indeed die and go to the drop. So in that sense, it is removal, plus it goes on and swings for double damage. It's 35k, which means it's a big beater. And in Fusion World, there are no counters, which means your opponent's gonna have to combo out of it or potentially block. But you can just get rid of the blocker. So, and then alternatively, probably I like this card way more personally, but they're both really good. Son Gohan, 4-drop 2 red reduction, 25k critical, means when it deals damage, it goes to the drop as opposed to your opponent's hand. When attacking, choose up to 1 of your opponent's battle cards and it gets minus 10k power for the turn. This is so good in terms of being able to apply pressure onto your opponent's leader, and then you're negging something else on board so that your leader can attack that. And that's what's really cool about the red strategy, is that it has so much critical that you can choose which cards go into your opponent. Your opponent will be forced to take that life at some point, but it goes to drop, so they never gain a card in hand. And then you use your leader card to attack things on board, so you draw a card, but you never give your opponent a card. And then they neg cards even more in hand if they want to combo and keep their stuff on board. So in that sense, Goku is really, really annoying and really good. Plus, with that leader ability, just makes it so much better at doing that. And then leading on to the extra cards, you have God Kamehameha. If you have no battle cards, reducing it costs this card in hand by 1, makes it a 1 cost, and then choose up to 1 of your opponent's battle cards with 30k power or less and KO it. Pretty good. Doesn't hit everything, which kind of makes it a little suspect, but of course you can always reduce the cost. 30k hits most things. Doesn't hit the boss monster, but if you combo it with a card, like let's say Kamehameha, to be able to reduce a card's power, then you're able to use God Kamehameha after that, which activate battle on the Kamehameha, choose your leader or up to 1 of your battle cards. It gets 15k power for the battle, and then choose up to 1 of your opponent's battle cards and it gets minus 5k. So alleviates, helps. Essentially, if you're attacking into a battle card, you can swing for 20, which is always nice. Moving over to the blue deck, we've got Vegeta and the God Arc for the most part. And blue is very much hand manipulation. alternating between how many cards you have in hand to be able to get additional triggers to be able to get more advantage on your side. And that kickstarts with the leader Vegeta, 15k when attacking, draw one card, awakens at 4 life. And then on the awakened side, once again, swings and draws a card. Activate main once per turn. If you have 7 or fewer cards in your hand, this card gets 15k power for the turn. Effectively make it a 35k leader, which is huge. It's very aggressive, and it does force you to lean into being a more aggressive strategy, but 35k swings are nothing to scoff at, and it can be a ton of power. And a lot of cards in the blue deck have this whole 7 or fewer cards in your hand theme. Looking over at the SRs, we've got Vegeta, 5 cost, again 0 combo power, something you need to be mindful of with these boss monsters. 35k double strike, just like the Goku. And then on play, choose up to one of your opponent's battle cards that cost 4 or less and place it at the bottom of its owner's deck. So this can hit any 4 costs, which is great, but unlike the Goku, it doesn't hit anything that's, you know, huge bodied. So I think the balancing act is that both of these can get rid of 4 drops pretty effectively, and just deals damage removal is always neat. Alternatively, we've got Gotenks, which is an advantage engine. 4 cost, 2 specified, blue, 25k on play. If you have 7 or fewer cards in your hand, add up to 1 Sun Goten and up to 1 Trunks Youth, both with the cost of 2 or less from your drop to your hand. This is just great to be able to push through. The starter deck has a good number of Gotens and Trunks, some of which draw cards, some of which use abilities, or you could just use them proactively, swing at your opponent, combo them away, play the Gotenks, get those cards back. So it's a great way to be able to recur and get more advantage on that front. Then we look at the extra cards. We got Final Flash, permanent. If you have 7 or fewer cards in your hand, reduce the cost by 1, making it at 1 cost. Activate main, discard 1 card from your hand, which is an additional cost, but it can potentially help you get down to that 7 or lower, and maybe you pitch like a Goten or Trunks and you get those back. So kind of how you get those loops going. Choose up to one of your opponent's battle cards with a cost of 5 or less and place that at the bottom of its owner's deck. So just good, clean removal. A little less flexible, I would say, than Goku's card, because naturally you can't modify your opponent's play cost, at least as of yet. But nevertheless, the fact that it can hit any 5 cost or less is obviously very decent. And then for 1, we've got Galagun, activate battle, choose your leader or up to 1 of your battle cards. It gets 15k power for the battle. Then if you have 7 or fewer cards in your hand, draw 1 card, effectively making it a free card if you can meet the condition. From there, we're going into a fan favorite. Absolutely love Broly. So here, Broly is ramp. So green in Fusion World, unlike Masters, is actually going to be the green ramp color, which, to be fair, makes a lot more sense when we consider what ramp looks like in every other card game. So the strategy very much revolves around being able to get cards into your energy and then utilizing that to get out big boss monsters. And it all kicks off with the leader Broly. When attacking, draw 1 card, and the Awaken is different here against all the other leaders. When your life is at 4 or less, add 1 card from your life to your energy in rest mode. So you do ramp and then flip this card over. But something to be mindful of, because you're taking a life on Awaken, means that you're going down to at least 3 life. So you're like a 3 life Awaken leader. But Broly on the Awaken side is a 25k lead. And something to note is that all the other Awaken leaders thus far are only 20k. Activate main once per turn, place 1 of your energy in your drop, draw 1 card, then this card gets 5k power for the turn, effectively making it a 30k. It's a little bit iffy here because naturally, once you awaken, you're no longer just drawing. You're always replacing a card. You're going to place 1 in energy and then you're going to pop it to be able to draw a card, right? So it's unlike the other leaders, you're not getting that much advantage. The benefit being that other decks are always going to have to combo up to be able to deal damage to you. So something to consider there. A lot of power, but there is very much a cost tied to it. But there's a little bit of recursion in the deck built in to be able to kind of make that a little bit easier. When we look at the boss monsters, we've got Broly, huge 8 drop, 45k, the biggest card we've seen so far. On play, draw 1 card, then choose up to 1 of your opponent's battle cards and KO. Destruction on anything. And then when attacking once per turn, switch this card to active mode. For you Masters players, that is dual attack. Effectively, this card will be able to attack twice. And in terms of 45k is so big, it is almost guaranteed to deal 2 damage. This says deal 2 damage. The problem is that it's an 8 cost. It's very expensive. Unlike the other decks where I would say you want to max out on their boss monster, which, by the way, if you guys want to check out the optimized version of all these starter decks, I'll be coming out with a video very shortly. So link should be up there if I'm done that by now. If not, subscribe to the channel. Always going to be there for more. It is very hard to get out, which means I don't think you max out on copies of this card, except it is very impactful when it comes down. But to help you get to that, we have Turtles, 5 cost, 3 specified green, 30k critical. We love a 30k crit. That is such a good stat line with such a good ability. respectively. And then on play, add up to 1 card with a cost of 3 or more from your drop to your energy. So he's ramping you, and it doesn't come in rest mode, which is big. Which means you can play turtles, go to 6, and then you have the extra energy to be able to defend yourself, do what you got to do. Naturally, that's not enough ramp, right? That doesn't get us there. Thankfully, we've got proper ramp in the form of Destructive Strength. 3 cost, activate main, add 1 card from the top of your deck to your energy. Just clean. And it's the fact that it comes in not in rest mode is good, because then you still have the 1-up for things like Gigantic Meteor. 1 cost, activate battle, choose your leader, or up to 1 of your battle cards. They get 15k power for the battle. Then, if you have 6 or more energy, that card gets plus 10 for the battle, effectively making it a 25 combo for 1. Super solid, and it'll always be turned on by maybe turn 4 if you're able to get a double ramp off. So we are able to get there, are able to push ramp strategies. It all depends on your payoffs and being able to get there. The deck has really good ways to recur a 1-drop blocker over and over and over again. So I will say the defenses exist. It's just about whether it gets there or not. And then finally, everyone's favorite villain, Frieza, shows up as a yellow, which can't imagine him being any other color. And he is very much focused around blockers, because he's got the ability that allows them to restand, which means you can be aggressive with them, and then they're blockers again. And honestly, this deck is looking to be the contender for the best starter deck out of all 4 available. It kicks off with the leader, 15k when attacking, draw 1 card, awaken when your life is at 4 or less, draw a card, and turn your leader sideways. And then on the awaken side, we have a 20k when attacking, draw 1 card, end of your turn, choose up to 2 of your battle cards and switch them to active mode. This is huge for 2 reasons. 1, obviously, because you're able to attack with a blocker and then get it up, which means defensively you're kind of chilling. But 2, this game is going to be so board centric in the first set. Managing your opponent's board, making sure they can't attack too much is usually more important than early on dealing damage to your opponent. So the fact that your stuff is in active mode means your opponent can't attack them, meaning that you're forcing them to have to attack into you or do things that sequence in a way that they don't love, because they can't strictly attack into your board. In that sense, Frieza is incredibly powerful and will probably lend itself to being a very useful leader going into the set 1 meta. In that sense, we've got the 2 boss monsters of the deck. We've got Golden Frieza, 5 cost, 35k double strike. When attacking, choose up to 1 of your opponent's rest mode battle cards, and it can't switch to active mode during the opponent's next turn. So it's stunning a card, and if your opponent doesn't deal with that card's staying stunned the entire game, because you can just swing over and over and over again. Did they swing with their boss monster? All right, I answer with Golden Frieza. Now their boss monster is never restanding, and they're never getting additional value out of that, right? So it's an incredibly powerful stun card. Of course, it's not hard removal, so if they deal with Golden Frieza, eventually you'll get that card back. But in terms of the tempo swing that this card provides, absolutely massive. Looking onto King Cold, the big blocker daddy, 4 cost, 2 yellow reductions, 25k blocker. When KO'd, choose up to 1 of your opponent's rest mode battle cards with a cost of 4 or less and KO it. So I'm going to take down the card that hit me, most likely if it's small enough. If not, I can mitigate my opponent's board. Honestly, really super solid, good stat lines. 10k combo, which is huge. A lot of the other SRs we saw were 5k combos. The fact that it's 10k is pretty push. And then moving on to the extra cards, a lot of the yellow cards are lower to the ground. It has more 1-drops than any other of the deck, and here we can see that in Golden Deathbeam. Activate main, choose up to 1 of your opponent's rest mode battle cards with cost 3 or less and KO it. Does hit very specific things, rest mode cards, and they have to be 3 or less, but in the early game that's probably fine. And then a Death Ball, 1 cost, activate battle, choose your leader or up to 1 of your battle cards. It gets 15k power for the turn. Then choose up to 1 of your opponent's battle cards with cost 3 or less and switch to rest mode. This effectively combos like 2 for 1. You're preventing yourself from taking damage, and you're preventing something else from attacking. So you're forcing some really awkward sequencing from your opponent, oftentimes because they need to play around how you're going to rest mode things, which is incredibly powerful. In terms of overview though, that's all the decks. And I have to say, naturally, play your play style. What you should buy is the one that plays the most to you. Red is looking to be a great mid-rangey strategy that can often play a game against almost anything, because Goku's ability is really flexible. You can lean Vegeta to being a really good aggressive deck, especially with that 15k swing strike, balanced by the fact that you don't have as much critical as, say, the other decks. A green ramp, if you love playing the big beefy boys, I'm definitely going to look towards that deck and see how we can do it. But Broly, it might be hit or miss. I think it's going to take a little bit more time to see how it plays out versus other battle cards, to see if it makes up for the fact that, you know, Broly is such a late game deck, the fact it doesn't get as much advantage. But I think Frieza is absolutely insane. It reads crazy. It has a bunch of advantage engines. It's the hardest to deal with its board. And to that sense, if you're looking for a deck that'll probably be the best out of the box, I'm going to have to probably say Frieza is your pick, because it just kind of does a little bit of everything really well. And it's lining up to be one of the scarier decks, especially as we lead into Battle Hour, if you're looking to play in that first showcase tournament. That's just my opinion. If you guys think I'm wrong, let me know down in the description below. Which starter deck are you looking to buy? I'm going to get and test all of them, but super excited to finally jump in and see how Fusion World is really going to play out. So with that said, guys, I'll catch you guys on the next one.